All right, welcome to the Houston High School Huddle, Week 3 edition. We've got 2 weeks of data in the books. That's my guy, Matt Stepp. Dave Campbell's Texas High School Football. I'm the Wizard. Stepp, first of all, the big news. He's heading to Houston. Everybody make way, clear the roads, get the police out there for an escort to his game. He's coming down. You got to be excited out there because right now all you've seen is some games that you're somewhat watching on Texas Live while you're trying to concentrate on the game you're at. You're going to actually get to see some stuff. I usually end with this, but tell us where you're headed at the beginning here because people are going to want to know.
Man, we're doing it at the beginning.
Right at the beginning. We want to know.
So Thursday night, I will be at Wood Forest Bank Stadium. District opener, 13-6A, between Conroe and College Park. Should be a great game. Not sure if that's on our rundown. Are we talking about that game?
Yeah, we'll talk about it a little bit.
But excited, should be a really good district opener. I think there's playoff implications in this game. And then Friday night, the big one, top 10 matchup between in LaPorte. I get to see the new stadium in LaPorte. You got PNG coming to H-Town to take on the LaPorte Bulldogs, 2 teams that are in the top 10 in the state in their rankings. Really fired up to see this game. Obviously, I'm fired up to see the new stadium. Coach Bernethi has already sent me a couple places to eat in LaPorte, so
nice.
Fired up about that. Coach Bernethi, I need that parking pass. That parking is a little dicey there, so I'm going to need that parking pass, Coach. But really excited to see the brand new stadium. I think it's going to be a packed house in LaPorte. Yeah. LaPorte brings a big crowd. P&G brings a big crowd. 2 really good teams. I'm excited about them. I had a good Saturday game. In Katy, I was gonna do Katy Jordan and Katy Tompkins Saturday night district opener, but I'll be headed to Canada Saturday morning. My daughter on Sunday is getting baptized, so I'll be attending that church service up in Canada Sunday. So I'm flying out out of George Bush on Saturday morning and going up to Toronto to spend about a whirlwind 36 hours in Toronto before turning around and flying back to Dallas on Sunday evening, so to be back at it. So only 2 games this week, but I think if I'm only going to have a week with 2 games, this is a great week to do it because these are 2, I think, bangers.
Absolutely. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on that new stadium at LaPorte. Obviously, the guys that watch the show, people that watch the show saw Jeff Powers' nice story on that game. He had the drone out or on that stadium last week, and he had the drone out, and he was showing – it just looked like when I walked into Melissa, except it maybe even looked better than that. I don't know. Yeah, Melissa people won't hear this, but I think it looked a little better.
Melissa's nice. Hey, look, listen. I mean, I'm a softie. I'm in the press box. You're down there grinding on the field. You and the camera people there at Inside High School Sports. I'm pampered in the press box most of the time. I don't need a lot, just give me a seat and a plug and I'm good. Right. But, it looks like the accommodations there are just first class. So really excited to see the stadium. And I've been visit LaPorte. I've seen LaPorte play, but never been to LaPorte, Texas. Cause it's kind of, you gotta be going to LaPorte to get to LaPorte. It's not a drive-through city or anything. So excited to get the hometown atmosphere. Because LaPorte still feels in a lot of ways, it is a one-school town, but it still feels like a small town in a lot of ways, the way they support their team. So I'm really excited, so if you're a Houston high school football fan, you're used to being in Cy-Fair or one of the big districts, Fort Bend, go out to LaPorte and catch a game. Like, that's kind of a small town Texas high school feel right in the middle of the city, basically.
Especially if your team plays Thursday or Saturday. Go out there Friday and check them out.
Tickets might be hard to get this week, but if you can get a ticket, I recommend it.
And LaPorte is craving for those boys to be back in town. I mean, they played a couple years, almost all road games, right?
They were nomads. Yeah, they had they played their home games.
Barbers Hill and places like that.
Yeah, 2023 they were in Barbers Hill for their home games, and last year they were in Deer Park for their home games. So they got like 7 or 8 home games this year, and hey, if they finish high enough, they might get an extra one in the playoffs.
There you go. Yeah, they're itching for some home games, and they're getting them. Yeah. Let's start talking about some of these teams from Week 2 analysis that we got, and we got some 6A districts that are really struggling right now. 6A districts that we can't get a read on. I was going to start by asking you where these districts are going to get wins, and then you realize they have district play, so they'll just beat up on each other at some point. But you look at districts like 14-6A, 26A, and 24-6A are the ones I want to highlight. 14-6A I talked about already. I mean, without Nimitz, that's a 2-12 district right now. only won 2 games. Granted, Westfield had a lead against the Hightower team last week, let that thing slip away. The guy that was down there shooting it told me they kind of went away from what they were doing to get that big lead. So what do we make out of this 14-6A? Obviously, there's 4 teams that are going to make the playoffs, but are there 4 teams that are going to get bounced quickly, or what's happening here?
Yeah, I think 14-6A is probably looking at – I mean, part of it is the district's not very good. Even Nimitz, I mean, they're 2-0, but
haven't played much.
Yeah, Westfield's played the best competition, but they haven't won any of those games. You know, Decaney's struggling a little bit. Spring seems down.
Spring hasn't scored a point.
Yeah, well, we don't. My alma mater hasn't scored a point either. We won't talk about that.
Sorry about that.
It brings up tough. It's tough scene for us. Go Bulldogs anyway. Yeah, I mean, MacArthur looks a little bit better, but I don't think they're playoff ready. You know, Eisenhower's gone through some struggles. It's just, you know, it's just tough. It feels like this is going to sound like a shot at another district, but it feels almost like it's HISD North. You know, it's just, I think they're going to go over in the playoffs. I just don't see a whole lot of teams with potential to make any noise. I think they'll be competitive with each other. I think when 14-6A starts playing each other, there's going to be some good competitive games. But I think also the matchup with 13-6A, which I know we'll talk about later, it's tough.
That's going to be tough too. Yeah. Then you look at 26A.
Heck, HISD has better chances in 6A because I think their matchup with 17-6A. There's a couple of games that HISD can win. You know, whereas I don't know if 14-6A can win a game.
That is true. Those top 2 teams, their hope is on Westfield, and hopefully they get better as the season goes along, or Nimitz. But what about 26A? They're kind of 3-11 right now. This is another one we kind of figured might be on a little downhill because we kind of figured that people would load the box on straight Jesuit and kind of try to shut that thing down.
And they have.
And with Caduti leaving, Fulshear, they are winless right now. They're still playing that schedule that he put together and non-district wise. What do you make of this district as well? Because this one has a chance of having a lingering effect because they only have 7 teams. They're going to have to constantly keep playing non-district games and before they start playing each other.
Yeah, you know, Straight got a nice bounce back win over Aldine Davis last week. So that, you know, again, 14-6A catching strays over here. You know, Straight did beat Aldine Davis last week. A-Leaf Taylor does have a win. George Ranch got, you know, I think you're going to need, you know, Foster's played a tough schedule, losing to Randall, and they Foster hadn't scored a point all year either. Now they lost last week 7-0. Last week losing to Seven Lakes, that's got to hurt. Your defense only gives up 7 points and you lose. Yeah. That's kind of a gut punch. But and then poor Foster's got Angleton this week, so they're gonna have it tough. So it's I think there's potential. Fulshear's played a really tough schedule. They lost to Pearland and Ridgepoint, 2 top 25 teams, and for 3 quarters, Fulshear gave Ridgepoint a run. So I think there is some potential in this district for improvement, and I think, especially Strake, if they get the right draw, maybe can win a playoff game or 2 like last year.
Well, the one I'm really surprised about is 24-6A. I mean, without Dickinson, that district is also 3-11, and you haven't seen much out of Clear Springs. They're playing good competition, but they didn't. They're not holding their own in there. Deer Park has yet to get on the board here. They lost that tough one to LaPorte to start things off. What do you think about this district? Can they get that stuff together there?
Yeah, I mean, Deer Park, listen, they lost to the Woodlands by 10 last week. So, yeah. I mean, I think Deer Park's going to be fine. They're 0-2, but they're Austin Flynn's done a good job there. Their 2 losses are to LaPorte and the Woodlands by a total of 13 points.
Right.
Deer Park's going to be fine. Clear Springs did get in the win column last week. You kind of thought, Clear Lake and Clear Brook are going to be down. Clear Creek has struggled a little bit. They haven't scored a point all year. A
lot of these teams are just wishing their opponent center would just snap the ball out of the back of the end zone just to get them going.
Now Clear Creek, Clear Creek played Kingwood and Shadow Creek, so tough games. They got Channelview this week. I think that's a winnable game for them. So I think there's some potential there for things to turn around in this district. But you got Dickinson. Dickinson's going to be the clear favorite, but I think Deer Park's going to be fine as well. The problem, 24-6A, especially for Deer Park and Dickinson, is that they both go D1. You got to play North Shore at Atascocita first round. North Shore got right last week, and Atascocita has been unbelievably good early on with Carday Mack just putting the cape on. So, but I like 24-6A will be fine. I think, especially the top, I think Dickinson and Deer Park are going to be just fine.
Still be some classic games there.
Yeah.
When they play each other. All right, let's talk about some of these games. You'll be at this one. Thursday night special at Woodforest Bank Stadium. College Park, boy, they are putting some points out there, aren't they? And Conroe, even it's only been 2 games, but they feel I'm saying this way too early, but they feel like they're under the radar because College Park's doing so well.
Yeah, I think for Conroe, it's really, they've played 2 overmatched opponents. Last week they beat A-Leaf Hastings, so now 26A is catching the strays, 31-0. It's a good defense, and the defense was already good. Cedric Hardiman's team was already going to have a really good defense this year. Then you add in the best player from a state championship defense in CJ Mooring, who transferred in from Austin Vandergrift. You add him as kind of the quarterback right in the middle of your defense at linebacker. And Conroe's defense is fast, they're physical, they will strike you. Their secondary is outstanding. The key for Conroe's defensive line play, if their defensive line can continue to come along, they're going to be a problem defensively. Caleb Nunley at quarterback has looked good. They've got Alex Spence Myers at running back, who transferred in from Bridgeland. He's given Conroe some nice balance on the offensive side of the ball. It's a good, solid, all-around football team. College Park has really been impressive. Last week, the way they, not surprised they beat a young Klein Kane team. Not super surprised there, but I am surprised they beat Kane by 37 points. They just obliterated them 58-21. Their quarterback had a monster night. Camden Hughes, 6 passing touchdowns, a rushing touchdown. He had over 500 yards of offense. This is a College Park offense that's averaging over 65 points. They scored 58 last week, and their average dropped because I think they put up a 70.
73, 73 against Cy Park.
So, in Cy Park, we no
Harold Perkins. What are you going to do?
Yeah, ever since Harold Perkins left, it's been tough scene over there for them. So, I like the Beltran kid at College Park. This is a huge game. And in 13-6A, the playoff positioning is key. This is something that when you start looking at analytics, if the loser of this game, their playoff chances are dropped significantly because this is a head-to-head loss against a team that you're competing with for a playoff spot. And so this is a massive football game. It's going to be played on September 11th. It is early for this kind of game with playoff implications. But if you want to see a game on Thursday night in the Houston area that has impact for the postseason in November, get to Woodforest Bank Stadium Thursday night because this is a game that has massive playoff implications. I've gone back and forth in this football game, and I'm going to be there, so as I've really thought about it a little bit. I just feel like College Park is playing so well right now, and the quarterback is just on fire. I got to go with College Park here, but I think Conroe wouldn't surprise me. It's going to be a heck of a ball game. Like I said, Thursday night, this is the game. There's 2 really good games in Houston Thursday night, but the other one's a non-district game. This is a district ball game with playoff implications. So like I said, if you want to see a football game of consequence on Thursday night in the Houston area, get your butt over to Woodforest Bank Stadium.
Double the implications on this one. Now, do you think this is going to be a track meet, or do you think because Conroe's defense has got some big-name players over there, they may be able to keep that thing under 40 points?
I don't think it'll be a track meet. I don't think it's going to be one. I don't think it's going to be a slog either. I don't foresee a 17-14 game. Right. I see one of those normal, 28. I think it'll be the high 20s, low 30s.
Gotcha. All right, that should be a fun one. Another one, we find out a little bit more about Grand Oaks. They're both undefeated going in this game. Grand Oaks has not played the same competition as the Woodlands, but they did take care of TK Gaines last week in a tough one with a bunch of 1-yard, 2-yard runs from quarterback Smith over there at Grand Oaks. But we get to find out the progress. I don't know if I'm expecting them to win, but I would like to see what kind of progress that team has made, and would we talk about them in early November as a possible playoff squad?
Yeah, I think Grand Oaks is a team that's competing with Conroe and College Park for one of those third or fourth place, maybe in second place spots. We'll talk about Willis in a little while. There's questions over there at Willis, but this is, I think, I don't think we're expecting a Grand Oaks win here. Like the Woodlands, Jack Dalton, that awesome secondary that they have. the Woodlands is clearly the team to beat in 13-6A. They are the best team in the district, in my opinion. I think for Grand Oaks, what you want to see is have they closed the gap? Can they be competitive in this football game? You know, that last year the Woodlands beat them 49-14.
Right.
You know, they beat them by 5 touchdowns. So can Grand Oaks hang around for a half? Can they keep it competitive for 3 quarters? You know, that's the kind of what I'm looking at. Now, Sean McDowell, I guarantee you, is not saying that to his football team. He's saying we can win that football game. But I don't think a loss here is going to bury Grand Oaks. But I think the measure of progress we're going to see in this football game is how competitive they are. If they're competitive, then I think you put Grand Oaks right in that playoff mix. If they get their doors blown off, then I think you're like, well, you know, may not be the year for Grand Oaks. They may be another year on the outside looking in. So this is going to be kind of a measuring stick game. I mean, I think the Woodlands wins. I think Grand Oaks keeps it competitive, though. I could see a 34-17 kind of game where Grand Oaks kind of hangs around for a while, but just can't ever make it a 1-score game, if that makes sense.
Sounds like Wood Forest Bank Stadium is the place to be this week.
Maybe that's Friday night game at Wood Forest Bank Stadium.
Throw out a tent out there and sleep in the parking lot.
Go ahead. Go ahead and make it happen. I mean, it's you know, it's district play in 13-6A. So yeah, 9 team districts are starting district
started right away. Yeah, we'll talk a lot more about that when we get to 15-6A as well. You talked about off air about Skyline going all the way down there, not being able to play against Fort Bend Marshall coming home. Now, was that better than Crowley going down there, maybe knowing the whole trip down that they just lost to Sock, we're about ready to get our doors blown off and then coming back? I don't know, but they got right, and now they're playing Spring West.
Yeah, I think it was a get-right game for North Shore. That they took out a little frustration on Crowley. Seeing some of the kind of chatter on the message boards, North Shore fans seem to think that and I'll be honest, I haven't watched a single second of North Shore Crowley. You know, it's right. You know, I try to watch. Crowley has one of the more entertaining Texan Live announcers out there. He's always a hoot, so I try to watch Crowley games just to hear him go at it. But I haven't had a chance to pull this one up yet because it was a 42-0 game. Yeah. So it's kind of at the bottom of my watch list, if that makes sense. But talking to some fans, seeing what's going on, you know, North Shore fans are much happier with the defense. They thought the tackling looked better. And we're talking about an educated fan base here. We're not talking about a group of fans who just think they played better because they shut a bad team out. They know what they're talking about. So I would believe them when they say that they tackled better, they looked a little bit different. And I think this is a young North Shore team that's going to get better as the year goes. That was one of the reasons why I picked South Oak Cliff to beat them in week 1 is North Shore's just young. And they're going to get better as the year goes along, but, you know, it's going to take some time. Westfield probably feels like they let one slip away last week, and I wonder where their heads are at and their confidence is at. You let a game slip away against Hightower, and now you got to deal with North Shore and North Shore that's improving. Now, Westfield traditionally has given North Shore fits because they have traditionally, when their vintage years, have the physicality and the speed and the talent to go blow for blow with them. I mean, they're almost like mirror images of each other, not just because they're the same mascot. They're both red and black school colors, but they have played in the past similar brands of football. And I just don't think Westfield has the personnel that they've had in the past. And I think North Shore, dominates this football game.
Now, did North Shore play well enough to get back in your top 25?
They did. They actually did. And this is not a shot at North Shore. I don't take much stock in them beating Crowley, which is why they got back in the 25. I mean, it's Crowley's down this year. I mean, last year Crowley was a good football team. They went to the third round of the playoffs last year. They were a good football team. And North Shore, they gave North Shore some trouble. Now, 5 interceptions didn't help, but they gave North Shore trouble when North Shore had to come up to Fort Worth and play Crowley. This year, Crowley is down. So it's not really – North Shore did get back. They were basically just to pull the curtain back a little bit, they were the first team out of the rankings last week. They were basically ranked 26th.
Sounds like the March Madness here. First team out.
Yeah, the first team
out.
It. So with Katy and Jordan losing, though, that dropped those 2 teams out. So 2 spots opened up, and North Shore was the first one. They're ranked, I think, 24th this week. So they're back in the top 25. I think Louisville was the other team that jumped into the top 25, new team in the top 25 this week. And so, if you're a North Shore fan, I wouldn't, you can be worried about the rankings, but in the end, they've got games later on this year against Summer Creek and Atascocita. They easily have a chance to work their way back into the top 10, with games on the field. So this one, I don't think will be very competitive. I think North Shore rolls.
Gotcha. Yeah, Coaches have still got them at 5 there, but that's because there's 4 teams ahead of them. You know, they had some very impressive wins. I mean, 1 through 5 is Summer Creek, Atascocita, Ridge Point, and Dickinson, and then North Shore comes in 5.
Trying to see if I had a Matt Stepp Houston ranking, where would they be ranked? At least, well, Matt Stepp / Dave Campbell's Houston ranking.
Right.
Let's see, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Oh,
they'd be ranked 8th. In Houston,
you probably had them behind Woodlands and Pearland, and
yes, Pearland, the Woodlands, and Bridgeland, and Bridgepoint and Bridgeland play this week. So
yeah, so we'll find something out.
If it's a lopsided game one way or the other, one of them's probably going to drop.
Gotcha. All right, 15-6A starts, and this is going to be a wild district. I think 15 and 16-6A are always fun to watch, but 15 especially. And then week 1, you got 3 games with, like you said about the College Park game, major playoff, at least for district titles and making playoffs. I expect both these teams to make the playoffs, but this seems like a heck of a matchup up in Tomball.
Well, it could be for seeding. These 2 teams probably, if they make the playoffs, go Division II. So this could have major seeding implications. Great stadium there in Tomball for this game to be held at. Let's talk about Collins first of all. They were the most mystifying team that on the Houston High School Huddle last year. We couldn't figure those. Every time we'd pick them, they'd lose, and every time we'd pick against them, they'd win. Well, this year they've been a lot more consistent. That was they gave Willis their first regular. That's Willis's first regular season loss since 2022.
Yeah, and
not only did they hand them a loss, they handed them a beatdown, and that physicality that Klein Collins always plays with is really interesting. It makes them a tough matchup. The quarterback Braden Scoggin is a dude, and that Klein Collins has an identity, and that identity starts with their defense and how physical they are. Tomball has an identity, and that identity is making us look stupid when making pick sixes because they always seem to be the team that flies under the radar, and they find ways to get wins. This is Jackson Falden is a great quarterback. He's a leader of men. He just makes plays for him. Got a couple of good receivers. They got good young talent there. Tomball's gonna, they're gonna be a really good program, at least until the 3rd high school opens in a couple more years, and then we'll kind of see where the chips fall once they open high school. I think it's Tomball West, I think is what the name of the school is. Probably is going to cut into their talent pool a little bit, but right now they've got a good base. This is a real pick'em type football game for me. Tomball didn't look great against Cinco Ranch. They beat them 24-14, but I think Cinco Ranch is kind of a middle-of-the-road team in 19-6. I don't think they're a bad football team, but I don't think they're a district title contender or anything. So interested to see how they look. Klein Collins looked great last week. So I'm going to go with the odds that Coach Handel gets Tomball going this week and has them playing a lot better. I think Tomball at home wins a squeaker. I mean, we're talking 2 to 3 points probably. Yeah. It's going to be a tight football game.
Now, you talk about Klein Collins looking good. They've looked good for 6 quarters this year, which last year we were, which game will we see him? And then so far, 6 out of 8 quarters, they've been dominant. This is a tough game for Klein Kane for a defense that's not playing very well to go up against a Klein team that's averaging 68 points a game. Man, it could be an 0-3 for Coach Clancy's squad.
So this is interesting because
what do you say?
So Klein has beaten Kane once in school history. It was Kane's first varsity football season.
Yeah, you know what? Kadudi told me that just the other day. Go ahead.
Kadudi told me that too. So that's where I'm getting that from.
Okay, there we go.
Thanks
for feeding our heads.
Yeah, so obviously, and Kane has been the team of record in Klein ISD. They've been the best school in Klein ISD. Yeah. Coach Clancy has done a great job building that program up. We thought this year would be a little bit of a rebuild, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and it has. This Klein Kane defense has given up, and they're giving up over 50 points per game on defense. Okay. And that's not a good recipe going up against Klein, who's scoring 68 points a game or something stupid. That Klein dead tee offense is cooking with Crisco. They are unbelievably good. I mean, Kadudi. What they do offensively is so hard to stop, and then they go for it on 4th down all the time. So they basically got an extra down. It's like we have the saying at Dave Campbell's, Tepper and I do, that when you play certain teams, it's like fighting a crazy guy. Like, you don't want to fight that crazy guy because he's unpredictable.
That's right.
Klein is the crazy guy in a fight. They're going to go for it on fourth down every time. They don't care. They're going to onside kick it all the time. They go for two every time, and they convert 2-point conversions at a 75% clip. So I equated it to, okay, you're a conventional football team and you score 4 touchdowns, you've got 28 points most of the time. Well, when Klein scores 4 touchdowns, they've got 30 points because they're going for 2 and they get 3 out of 4. So it's 30 points. So they're just picking up all these extra little advantages here and there, and it's how they get to those high point totals a lot quicker. They're rolling out running backs with neck rolls. They had 3 running backs with neck rolls out there at one point last year. They're just cut. I call them cut the brakes football, and they are. And they've got great. It's the scheme and the Kadudi conducting the band and all that is all great. They've got good football players too. Their offensive line is huge. They've got multiple playmakers at the skill positions. They got 3-4 running backs that can hurt you. They got a couple of really good receivers. Their quarterback is a dude. He broke off a long touchdown run last week against Dobie. Really impressive. So I think this is going to be a little bit of a changing of the guard in Klein ISD this year. I think Klein handles Kane and makes a little bit of a statement on Friday night here.
And they got a bunch of guys that are loving a taste of success, which they haven't seen in a while. They're probably just I don't even know what the high school hallways are like, but they're probably going crazy over there because they haven't smelled this in a while. Now they. Like Coach Kadudi's got him up in the crowd at the end of the game. He's
a culture guy. He gets people fired up. And Carter Littell is the quarterback's name.
Yeah.
You know, he's a guy. Kids love to play for him, and I guarantee you the hallways at Klein High are buzzing right now with the way their football team is playing. And if you're an educator, principal, you're probably happy because your school spirit is up.
Yep.
Kids are probably acting better in the classroom. They're not causing fewer problems. Kids are going to, the attendance is probably higher. People are wanting to go to school and they're on time. Football. People think that football is just football, but when you have a good football team, especially when you turn it around, it can have an impact on the whole school.
Infectious. I agree with that. Yeah. And then another one that you might want to call one of those elimination type games because Magnolia is under the radar for sure. I mean, they're 2-0. Klein Collins beat College Station by 7. If you want to do comparison, Magnolia beat them by 11. Mm-hmm. They're playing good football, and they're coming into town to take on Oak, and neither one of them wants to lose. They still want to try to make the playoffs here, so this is another tough one.
Yeah, this is a game very similar to the Conroe College Park game. In fact, it's a Thursday night, so if you don't want to go to the Woodlands, if Klein is closer, then go to Klein ISD Stadium on a Thursday night for this one because – this game's got your playoff implications as well. And I think this is basically an elimination game. I think the loser of this football game is looking at it going, okay, we just lost. We're going to have to we're going to have to beat Klein or Tomball or Collins to get into the playoffs. We're going to have to muck it up a little bit. So Magnolia had just barely missed the playoffs last year. They got a ton of experience back, really good defense. The Kovar kid is just a freak show linebacker. He's a 4-year starter. Then his brother, the other Kovar kid at free safety. I mean, they have 2 guys on their defense that are just leaders and can make plays. Magnolia is not real sexy on offense. They're not gonna do a whole lot of exotic things. They're just gonna execute really well. They got a good quarterback who's Chase Lowry's back. They're just gonna execute. Then Klein Oak, a fairly young team this year. They graduated pretty heavy. Yeah, they brought Micah Rhodes back, who's the sophomore sensation at running back, but a lot of the pieces around him graduated. So I think Coach Carpenter is still trying to kind of figure things out and kind of figure out what kind of football team he really has. And they did bounce back after the loss to P&G with a nice win over Cy Falls. I got to go Magnolia here. I think the veteran experience, and I think their defense is built to slow down the running game. And unless Klein Oak can beat him through the air, I think Magnolia gets him.
All right, well, the next we moved to 16-6A, and this is our game of the week that we're because I put so many letters in. Look how small the font is. Come on, StreamYard, give me some big fonts. Anyway, Bridgeland's heading down to Ridge Point.
There's font talk on here now.
Font talk. I should put that on there. Ridge Point against Bridgeland. Bridgeland, I didn't expect them to beat the pants off of Tompkins. I expected them to win, but not by 4 touchdowns. And now they're going to Ridge Point where I got one foot on the bandwagon. All I need is this win to put the other one on there and ride it out.
Yeah, so I was at this game last year. This was what you hate. This was a Saturday night special last year.
And I love this, which is a Thursday night special.
Thursday night special this year at Hall Stadium. So, yeah, Bridgeland, I was really impressed with how they handled Tompkins. Because Tompkins the week before, I was real high on Cy Ranch. And Tompkins the week before handled them. And then they come into Cy-Fair, and Bridgeland just puts a whooping on them. Yeah. Cash Schwab had a great game. Tyler Beagle, the quarterback. You know, we talked about Bridgeland losing those 2-star offensive linemen, Foji and Newman, but their offensive line is still really, really good. Yeah. Like, they got 5 guys who can get after the offensive line. Bridgeland's offense is a problem. They Cash Schwab runs tough, and he's got breakaway speed. Beagle experience at quarterback. You know, he hasn't been a starter, but he's played a ton the last 2 years. Because remember, Bridgeland was kind of doing that weird quarterback rotation the last 2 years with Jet Lewis, and so you know they Beagle's the guy. Lewis graduated, so he's getting all the reps. So it's really interesting that Bridgeland, you know, in the defense, I thought Bridgeland's defense containing Tompkins' speed was really key, because that was the difference in this game last year. Bridgeland just couldn't deal with Ridge Point's speed on either side of the ball, and Ridge Point beat them 38-21 last year. Yeah. And this is a team that Bridgeland had 2 losses last year, Ridge Point and Duncanville, and so it just shows you how good Bridgeland was last year. Yeah. You know, for Ridge Point, you know, it's interesting. You know, I don't know who the quarterback is. I think Seymour played the first game, but I don't think he played last week. He played a different guy at quarterback.
I think they had a suspension. I was hearing from.
Okay, well then there you
go. There. Yeah.
Okay,
so him and another player got suspended for that game. I don't know if it's 2 games there, but keep going. Yeah,
well, and you look at the score in the third quarter, it's 13-10.
Yeah.
And all due respect to Fulcher and Stephen Hill, Fulcher shouldn't be. Ridge Point is far more talented than Fulcher is this year. And I know Fulcher beat him last year, but Fulcher graduated real heavy. And Fulcher's learning a new offensive system.
Yeah.
You know, and it was only 13-10. And I was worried. Now, to Ridge Point's credit, in the fourth quarter, they hit the gas, they hit a different level, and blew it open in the fourth quarter. But for 3 quarters, that was a muck fest.
Right.
So I expect Ridge Point to be sharper this week. I think Coach LaFavors is going to be on them. They can't play a sloppy game this week and beat Bridgeland. Bridgeland's too good. I do think Ridge Point's speed is still going to be a problem. And I think what's been consistent through 2 weeks about Ridge Point is their defense. Their defense has been really good, and I think that's the key. I think they have a front 7 that Bridgeland can't overwhelm, and I think that's the key. And I think Ridge Point, that's the difference. I like Ridge Point in this football game, and I think Ridge Point wins it fairly comfortably and kind of makes a statement that, you know, hey, we're not this. You know, there's a narrative in Houston. I'll say it. You know, I've seen it on message boards. There's a narrative out there that Ridge Point's soft,
right?
And that's coming from a lot of people, you know, on the forums who are fans of teams like North Shore and Atascocita who have dominated the region. But it's not just those fans. I mean, I've seen fans from other fan bases say the same thing about Ridge Point. So there's a narrative out there that Ridge Point's soft. Well, I guarantee you they know about it. So they're going to look to make a statement and try to prove that narrative incorrect. And what better way to prove it incorrect than a Thursday night showcase game against a really good Bridgeland team?
And this is just about the last time they can show people, too, because they only got Hightower the rest of the way. Actually, you know what? That's a lie, because Travis is playing some good football.
Shout out Fort Bend Travis. Yeah,
we're going to have them on here in a few minutes. But, man, we glossed over that thing last week. You were like, yeah, I talked about the Katy Jordan games. Like, I don't know. Katy Jordan probably by a bunch. But anyway, what's the next game we're talking about? And I was like, oh. You were like, maybe we should talk more about that. But we will get to those guys.
Coach System and the Tigers heard the disrespect.
Absolutely. And then he threw a bunch of guys scoring touchdowns with names that are impossible to pronounce. So I had to talk to him specifically to find out who those
pronunciation got out. Get that pronunciation got out. Yeah.
Help a brother out. All right. Clear Falls and Cy Falls as we move into 17 6A. What's your thoughts on that one, especially after Cy Falls took that loss by 3 points to, what was it, Klein Oak last week?
That's right. That's right. Only one Falls will not fall this week.
That's right. That's
what I was saying here. Clear Falls, nice win over George Ranch last week. I think Cy Falls bounces back this week. You know, that Coach Brister's. I'm about to say Coach Eaton. He's retired, but Coach Brister, his ball club, they got good. You know, they lost to Klein Oak by 3. Close loss. I don't think too much of it. I think Cy Falls is just a faster, more athletic team here. and I think they're at home, so it's a long trip for Clear Falls, coming all the way up from Galveston County up to Cy-Fair. Another Thursday night game. I think you're loving all these Thursdays.
I am loving it. No get a camera at this one. Go ahead.
Thursday night game in Cy-Fair. So I go with Cy Falls in this one. I think Coach Brister's that speedy defense and that strong running game make all the difference here for Cy Falls.
I'm looking for a Clear Falls standout game for Kyden Barker with this new team as he's moved over from Galveston Balls. I'd like to see it at some point before we get into district play.
They scored 44 points last week, so I'm sure he had a big
a lot to do with it.
Yeah, sure.
All right, we talked about a lot of 15-6A games as marquee games. Obviously, we're going to talk about Atascocita and Westlake in a bit, but this one, when do you have Cy-Fair versus Dickinson, and it might be the third, fourth best game on your week schedule? This one looks like a doozy, man. A doozy.
Yeah. Cy-Fair's played very well. They are off to a nice 2-0 start, but I think the Kane win probably has lost a little bit of steam after Kane in College Park last week, and then last week, poor Cy Park, it's
boy, we beat up on them.
It's a tough scene for them, and if their losing streak is at 33 or something now, it's just they're going through it right now, and I think Coach Lawrence will eventually get them going, but there's growing pains. So Dickinson, that was a heck of a battle last week against C.E. King.
They had to come back hard in that one.
Yeah, C.E. King ran out to a big early lead. I want to say they were up 21-0.
And it was 21-6 at one point, but 21-0.
And Dickinson roared back. Lorenzo Aguirre is a dog.
He is, isn't he?
Nobody talks about him on a statewide level, but that dude just wins football games and makes plays. This Dickinson team reminds me of the team. It may have been Snelson's first year at Dickinson when they went 13-1 and got all the way to the regional final before losing to Pearland. They kind of have that feel. This might be his best team since then. So they just find a way to win, and I just don't think Cy-Fair is battle tested enough. I think Cy-Fair's got a really nice offense. They're putting up numbers. Man, this Dickinson defense is nasty. C.E. King hurt him a little bit. Cy-Fair is not going to be able to hurt him like C.E. King. Cy-Fair doesn't have the overall team speed that C.E. King has.
They got him at home, though. Does that mean anything being a prison?
I mean, it helps a little bit. I mean, it can't hurt. I mean,
right.
And like I said, it's a long road trip. But I just feel like Dickinson. We've got him. I think Dave Campbell's computer has Dickinson as an 8-point favorite, and I kind of see 8 to 10 point win for Dickinson. I think Cy-Fair keeps it close. Again, tough trip. Dickinson's probably got to leave like at 1 because of traffic, getting up to Cy-Fair on through downtown Houston, getting on 290. But I think I just feel like Dickinson's a team this year that they might be right now. I mean, right now, Ridge Point dropped a little bit in my personal view, so why not Dickinson? So give me the Gators in this one, and I think the Gators could, this is the last. I think Dickinson could run the table and go 10-0 here.
Okay. Excellent. The way they're rolling, it seems like it. They very well could. I threw this one in here to test your to dig deep in the Stepp knowledge tree.
Yeah,
they're just 2-0 teams, and Wisdom is actually, granted they're playing other HISD teams, but they're putting some points on the board. And they're taking on the Kipner team, couple classifications lower, but both these guys are 2-0. All I know about Kipner is they had a hell of a tennis player there for the last 4 years. No, but that's about it.
Well, Kipner got a nice win over Lamar Consolidated last week, 29-25. I like their quarterback, Troy DeGar Jr. You got a coach's kid at quarterback. He's the son of the head coach. He's an operator of that offense. I think, Kempner, neither of these teams has played, murderer's row by any means. I mean, Kempner's wins are over Aldine and Lamar Consolidated. And I think Wisdom beat Booker T and Milby.
Yeah.
Milby's quarterbacks, the Milby game was a shootout. So I think Kempner's deep. So I think Kempner, the Lamar Consolidated win is the best win of those 4. I think Kempner's defense and I think the quarterback play are the key here, and I think they handle the bigger school in Wisdom. So I like Kempner. They could go into district play 3-0, which will give them some confidence. I think if you're a Kempner fan, what you're hoping is to get into the playoffs. I think that's that's kind of what you're hoping for. The problem is they were 3-0 last year going into district, and then they proceeded to lose 6 in a row or 5 in a row before finally they beat Pasadena. I think if you're Kempner, you want to come out of this with a big win, much like they beat Wisdom last year 40-0.
Right.
You want to get a big win, get some guys in the game, get the feeling good, because the next 2 weeks you've got really key football games if you want to be a party crasher in the playoffs. They open district with Kingwood Park and and Porter. Right. Okay. You need to win. You need to get wins in probably both of those games to have a shot at the playoffs. So, and they were both competitive. I think Porter beat them by a point last year, and I think Kingwood Park beat them by 2 touchdowns. They were competitive games. So it's not out of the realm of possibility for Kempner, but if you're going to do it, you got to go into the playoffs. You go into the district play feeling good, right. And this will be a feel good win for Kempner.
Hey, Lamar was kept out of the coaches poll again, which is fine because they're 0-2, but don't be too distracted. I mean, I was against number 1 and number 2 in our coaches poll with Summer Creek and Atascocita. Mm-hmm. This could be a get-right game going into district play, too, heading down to Clear Springs.
Yeah, Lamar always plays a brutal schedule. Opening the season with Atascocita and Summer Creek, and Summer Creek got them pretty good last week. But week 1, they gave Atascocita a run. Like, it was a competitive game for 3 quarters. On paper, you probably would take Clear Springs, especially being at home. But I'm gonna go with the Texans here. I think Lamar strikes one for HISD and gets a win here. I like Coach Lindsay and the Texans in this ball game.
Yeah, I was going to say the same, man. Clear Springs 1 win was kind of.
It's Clear Springs hasn't. And maybe I'm thinking about the Rich Point loss and how they got blown away in that game. Or maybe Rich Point's just on another level. But I don't know. Lamar was competitive with Atascocita, so that makes me think they can get this one.
Gotcha. Well, this is a district that, came this close from making it on the district woes part of the show. I can't figure out 19-6A. Coach Joseph can't figure out his own team. He's part of our coaches poll. I asked these coaches to rank 1 through 20 in the 6A district in Houston, and this week he kept Katy off altogether. He thinks there's 20 teams better than his, or else he's just pissed off about enough to say that. But
I think Coach Joseph's pissed off.
He's just a little angry. Well, I mean, they dropped like a rock. They dropped down to like 12.
They hadn't been good. They've been bad, and the Atascocita game last week, I think it ended up 52-33.
33, yeah.
That was probably a kind scoreline for Katy. Like, I think Atascocita dominated that game.
They couldn't stop Carday all day. They couldn't.
Yeah, Carday was he that man has personally victimized Katy for the past 3 years. I think Katy will be very happy to see him walk across the stage.
They'll be at the graduation.
Yeah, they'll have the K train behind them, just shoving them off. Go to Arizona State, man. Get out of here. We're done with you. I think this is a get-right game for Katy. I'll be in, Katy, they got – and Coach Joseph's not going to make excuses. They got some guys banged up, especially on defense. I don't know when they're going to get those – specifically both their corners. So you got some young guys out there that are taking their lumps against really good football teams. And Dickinson and Atascocita are really good football teams. And you're throwing out young guys in the secondary. They're having trouble. The offense was a little bit better last week. I will give them that. They got Tremaine Hill going a little bit, so there was some improvement. I think this week is Katy takes out some frustration on Morton. Morton Ranch has improved. Coach Cavallo's team is better, but there's levels to this, and I think Katy gets a little feel good going into the rest of district play with a big win.
Yeah, and as upset as Coach Joseph is with this team, I mean, they're still sitting pretty because the rest of the district is kind of beating up on each other, or not each other, but they're taking wins, they're taking losses. We talked about Tompkins getting bombed by Bridgeland, and then I said a little bit about Jordan getting upset by Fort Bend Travis at home. Davis Kinney got him on that 80-yard interception return. But talk to me about this one.
Yeah, Jordan, again, much like Katy, they got some key guys out. Tanner West didn't play last week, and their star corner, Zachary Taylor.
Yeah, he was out.
And I don't know when he'll be back, and I don't know when West is going to be back. So not knowing that and just going off what I saw last week, I think I give the edge to Tompkins. The Blake Hamilton kid who went off in week 1 is a special talent. Jordan's lost to and again, I know that the injuries are there, but Jordan didn't seem to have very much offensively last week when I watched them. So at least Tompkins has shown some flashes of having some explosive playmakers. Without Tanner West, I didn't see it last week for Jordan. So a Saturday night special at Legacy Stadium. I know this is something that I know won't make the show. It's a Saturday night kickoff, but I'll be in Canada following it on Texan Live. I can assure you of that while I'm in my hotel there in Toronto. But I like Tompkins in this one. I think they just got a little more explosive, and maybe they had some distractions with Coach McVay in his situation. Maybe finally getting a normal week of just let's focus on football.
Right.
Let's not have anything off the field stuff going on. Let's focus on a KEISD opponent and get right. So I think Tompkins, this is a big win. This is a big game. I think these two teams are both in the playoff mix. So I think the winner of this game's got to feel really good about getting into the postseason. Now you can start working on stacking up wins to get your seeding better.
Right, get some victories. Drifted into 21-6A. We talked about that Hightower comeback. Now they're heading into Port Arthur Memorial. I believe they had them at home last year. Mm-hmm. What is your thought on this one?
Tough road trip. It's a tough trip from Port Bend to Port Arthur. This was an overtime game last year. Port Arthur played Legacy School of Sports Science and whatever. They got to deal with the Keyshawn Henderson show, and Keyshawn Henderson was as advertised. Yeah. But they couldn't stop Port Arthur Memorial. Port Arthur beat them 53-49, despite Henderson, I think, having over 600 yards of offense or something stupid. So they're not going to – Hightower doesn't have anything like that. They don't. But they're a better overall football team than Houston Legacy, Spring Legacy, whatever the hell they are. I just don't know if they're Spring or Houston.
You said it right one time. That's all you need.
Legacy School.
Sports Science.
Yeah. Hightower is probably a better overall football team than them. So I'll go with Hightower in another close football game. But with the road trip, I could see Port Arthur pulling this one out. But I'll go with the Houston team over the Golden Triangle team.
Now, are you feeling good enough about Travis to pick him over Randall?
No.
At Randall, how good are you feeling?
Sorry, Coach System. I don't feel that good about you guys. I think you guys are much improved and probably, maybe Travis can challenge Hightower for the 2 seed this year. I don't know. But Randall's got a guy named Landon Williams-Callis over there who is.
And you don't. And Travis, you don't.
And a Pac-Man Dominguez in that defense is playing lights out as well. Yeah. Randall seems to be, their passing game seems to have taken a step forward, at least early in the year. Now, again, talking to Dallas people, because of the sock Randall thing last year, a lot of the South Oak Cliff people have asked me, hey, what do you think of Randall? They bowling 2 people out, but they hadn't played nobody. And I was like, those 2 6A teams are the same 2 6A teams they blew out last year, and they beat you guys in the state championship game. So, they're doing what they're supposed to do against inferior opponents, and that's blow them out. I said, obviously, this is a little bit more of a test because Travis has a couple of nice wins on their resume, especially last week over Katy Jordan. So definitely a better test. And I think we're going to get a better measuring stick of how good this Randall team is. But, we'll find out about Randall in district play. They got Fort Bend Marshall. They got Iowa Colony. So we'll get a look at it. But I think this is the first real test of a team that has the ability to punch back. Travis is good enough where if Randall hits them, they'll punch back a little bit. So, but I think Randall wins convincingly.
Yeah. This starts a run of like 3 straight weeks that we have Randall on because they do play Marshall in their first district game and Iowa Colony right after that. So
they open up district with the 2 toughest games, and then it's kind of tails off after that. We won't hear from Randall again until Thanksgiving weekend, unless they lose. And if they lose, then we're really going to be talking about them.
Yeah, exactly. Pasadena Dobie and Pearland Dawson feels like an elimination game to me. I don't know how good Dobie's playing this year, but we know what happened last year. They had to get some points, and they got some points, and it would help if they got a win right off the bat here. Your thoughts on this one?
Well, Dawson beat Dobie last year and ended up being the odd team out of the playoffs.
That's true. Make it easy for yourself, though, this year, Dobie, if you want to make it.
Well, yeah, I think, Dobie, I watched – obviously Klein blew him away last week. But Dobie's got some – they got some clay to work with over there. They've got some good-looking kids. Their offense can be tough to stop as well. I don't know what to make of Pearland Dawson. I think they're a solid football team, but I just don't have a good read on what they actually are right now. They gave Bridgeland a good game. The Elkins, they handled Elkins, but I think Elkins is way down from last year. I'm going to go with Dawson. I think they're a little more battle-tested. Klein's the best team that any of these two teams have played through four games, but Dobie got beat by 6 touchdowns by Klein. So I don't know what you can take of that. Dawson at least, was competitive with a good Bridgeland team. So I like Dawson.
Okay. All right. Well, here's another headliner. Boston Westlake at Atascocita. Coach Stump already told me your boy over there at Westlake's throwing up the white flag after this. Now I'm not interested in playing it next year. I'm tired of getting beat. Do you think they get beat again? This time, they got beat when they went up to when it was on their home turf. Now they're coming down to Turner. Carde Mack is playing unbelievable football. Your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, so Westlake week 1 loses to Prosper by 7. Prosper's a good DFW team. They're loaded in the trenches. They got 3 D1 Power 5 offensive linemen, and they got a D tackle going to USC. So they're loaded on the trenches. Last week they went down to the Valley, and all due respect to San Benito, but that was a total mismatch. I don't take anything from Westlake putting a 50 burger up on San Benito. It's just San Benito's they're a below average Valley 6A team this year. So it's kind of not. Now, Westlake's, that's a long road trip. Now Westlake's got a tournament. They just went to San Benito, which is, we're talking from Austin to San Benito is probably 5 hours. It's 300 miles. It's a long trip. Turn around this week and got to go to Houston. So that, this is not a team used to that kind of travel. This is not a West Texas team that's used to those long trips. This is Westlake who's used to playing games at home. Then you got to do that dealing with Carde Mack, CJ Toney, that crew. I think it's going to be tough for Westlake to handle. They struggled last year at home. Reese Wise is a good quarterback. Westlake's lack of a running game is concerning. They haven't really been able to establish the running game. I would like to see Atascocita's defense play a little bit better. They haven't exactly just been not just lights out early. They've been good enough. And with Carde Mack scoring 6 touchdowns a game, you don't have to be great. So going to be watching those things. I think Westlake is probably looking at going 1-2, which is real surprising. I think Atascocita handles them by 10 to 12 points.
And I think, I don't know, man, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but just hearing the stuff that Stump said, I think Westlake's one of those teams that actually takes credence in their non-district. They don't like. Nobody likes to lose, but they really don't like it when they're 1-2 in non-district, which is probably why they scheduled a San Benito in there. But I don't play into that because you get in the playoffs and Atascocita is going through North Shore, Rich Point, whoever, and they're playing Los Fresnos in the 3rd round or somebody like that. Just stack it.
Westlake play. They do play a tough schedule. If you look at the last, obviously this year they played Prosper in Atascocita, but the year they played Rich Point the last in 22 and 23. They played Rich Point and Judson. So. And Judson's not what they were, but Judson's still a big name. So this is a program that, at least under Tony Salazar, they're who replaced Todd Dodge, they've played good people in non-district. Even when Klubnik was there, they played Euless Trinity. So they always play at least one really tough non-district football game. Okay. But yeah, going 1-2 is not normal for them. They might drop one. They dropped one last year, and then they may drop one here and there, but dropping 2 out of 3 is a little bit eye-opening, and I think this shows you. I think Westlake may be a little bit down this year.
Okay. All right, well, look, I got Goose Creek Memorial on this tip. They're playing Clearbrook. It's probably not an exciting game for people other than those 2 schools, but, Goose Creek was 0-3 in non-district last year and 1-9 overall. But this year, they're 2-0. They're averaging over 60 a game. What's turned around for them? They're playing the same teams that blew them out last year.
I think Coach Cleveland's doing a really good job. Their new head coach, I think he's infused. He's a Baytown Lee guy, so he knows that community pretty well. And I think he's given the Patriots a jolt of energy. And obviously, their 2 wins are over. Actually, Goose Creek was 0-10 last year. So they
0-10. Okay.
They lost to Sterling and Lee last year. They beat Sterling and Lee this year. So you see. Kind of the progress that they've made. Clearbrook, they got them last year. This is a toss-up. I think Goose Creek's improved quite a bit. Is this game down in League City, or is it in Baytown?
I believe it's in Goose Creek.
Okay, I'm gonna give Goose Creek the edge with this one at a venerable Stalwart Stadium there in Baytown. So give me the Patriots. I think Coach Cleveland goes to 3-0 and
then good luck in 23-6.
Yeah. Good luck with they go 3-0 and then they get Kingwood, CE King, North Shore, and Summer Creek all in a row.
Goodness.
But hey, we'll talk about that later. We'll talk about you being 3. Hopefully being if you're
3-0.
If you're a Goose Creek fan, you're hoping you're 3-0.
And they get a bye week after 3-0, right? Or no?
They got a whole week.
I think that whole district gets a bye.
Yeah, they get a whole week to celebrate it.
There we go.
Yeah,
that'd be nice. All right, dropping into 24-6A. Deer Park, another tough one. I mean, LaPorte. Then they played the Woodlands. Now they got Barbers Hill, which is a quality 5A team. Tell me what you think about this one.
Yeah, Barbers Hill off to a nice start under new head coach Cody Semper. They got out to a big lead on Manville last week and kind of had to hang on down the stretch there to hold them off. I think Deer Park gets them. I think Deer Park's kind of had some tough luck with those first 2 weeks of the season, those 2 really close losses. I think Deer Park, Coach Flynn's boys, get on the right side of things with a win over the Eagles.
All right, let's do some quick 10-4A Division I talk because they're starting to play district games right now. So, erase the records because now we're starting to see who's going to try to make playoff teams because Galena Park is 0-2, but it's 0-0 in district play, and they're taking on the Madison squad.
Yeah, Galena Park's been competitive against, decent competition, playing Porter and Sterling. Madison's 1-1, but, both their games are against HISD teams, and they got kind of handled by Yates. And Yates is a good
cream of the crop, right? They're the cream of the crop.
But the HISD 4As. So
4As, yes. That's true. Sorry,
so I think Galena Park and that ground and pound offense gets it done. What
about Milby and Waltrip there? They're starting off play as well, both of them 1-1. And
yeah, Milby's quarterback had that huge game in week 1 when they beat North Forest, and he had another big game they lose to Wisdom. Waltrip's 1-1. I don't put too much into that loss to Bel Air Episcopal. I think Bel Air Episcopal is just a really good private school team on a different level. Toss-up game here. I think Waltrip got him last year, and I think Waltrip gets Milby this year. But I think this is a pick 'em type game.
Gotcha. All right, here's one you promised to talk about because you'll be there. LaPorte P&G. We know about the stadium and the travel, but let's talk X's and O's here.
Yeah, P&G. They're coming off a blowout win over Beaumont United, 45-7. I think they forced 4 first-half turnovers, blocked a punt for a touchdown, had a pick 6. It was a blowout from the beginning. They got a 3-year starter. For the last couple of years, P&G has really been reliant on their offensive line and their running game to kind of get things done. They graduated heavy on the offensive line, so really a lot of the offense this year runs through Connor Bailey. Their 3-year starter as a quarterback. As a sophomore, he led them to a state championship over South Oak Cliff. Last year, as a junior, led him to the regional final before South Oak Cliff got their lick back. This year, the offense goes through him. He is the guy that is orchestrating that offense. He's a 3-year starter. He's started 30-plus games now, so I think Coach Joseph has implicit trust in him. LaPorte, tough schedule. I mean, 2 good wins over Deer Park and Kingwood. They are battle-tested. I love, they've Sean Simon's the star, but they've moved Ashton Ruffin over to the offensive side of the ball from where he played defense last year. He's been a difference maker for the offense. The quarterback, 3-year starter, Aiden Sines. He's got a good receiver outside. I think they will have to throw the ball a little bit. P&G, Jeff Joseph he's a Joseph. He knows they're good defensive coaches. They are going to have a scheme to try to slow down LaPorte's wing T offense. So can LaPorte make enough big plays in the passing game to walk that guy out of the box that P&G's in? They're going to try to put 8 in the box and see if LaPorte can beat him in the passing game. So LaPorte was kind of beat up last year where they played P&G and got beat. They're a little healthier this week. I give the edge to LaPorte at home with the big crowd, but this is going to be a fun atmosphere. I'm excited to be down in LaPorte on Friday night.
Yeah, that is going to be a dandy. All right, let's talk about some 2-0s. But Dayton here under their new head coach over the last couple of years is Prieto is playing some heckified ball. I was about to say hellified, but now I said it anyway, so whatever. They're playing New Caney Pointer, who's also 2-0, but they haven't played that kind of competition. Talk to me about what you think in this one.
Yeah, I think the key for Dayton is their Jerry Prieto Jr. at quarterback and Denham Foster. They're a versatile athlete. Those guys are difference makers for the Broncos. This is kind of, I'm buddies with their defensive coordinator, Jerry Poth, and he's kind of told me that if they could stay healthy, they felt like they had the team that could compete for potentially a playoff spot there at 8-5A Division II. And so far, they've been up to the task. They've looked great. If you're Dayton and you want to get into the playoffs, you got to win this game. You can't, you can afford a loss to Huntsville or PNG. Like that's not gonna burn you. But any of these other games, against the 2 Montgomery schools, playing Porter, these are the kind of games that you in Nederland, those are the kind of the 4 games that are kind of the make or break games that are going to tell the tale for the playoff races. So this is the first of that batch. You got to get a win under your belt and kind of put yourself in playoff positioning, and I think the Broncos get it done.
Well, this will be a good win, but it won't affect their playoff deal since they're in different districts. But
my bad.
It will be
I thought it was a district game. Sorry, yeah.
No. It will be a solid contest before they get to the bye, before they get into those.
Man, just
those
idiot.
No, don't worry about it.
The 2 Montgomery games are going to be key for Dayton. They got to win those 2 Montgomery games.
And those 2 Montgomery teams are actually struggling coming out the gates here. But
and then Nederland. And Nederland, I think, is the other one. Nederland got a win over West.
Yeah, I think they went from 6 to 12 points, or maybe even less
14.
Than that.
Well, they won so they beat West Orange Stark 14-6.
Okay.
West Orange Stark is driving at the end of the game, and they're trying to run the court. They're in 2-minute scramble mode, under 15 seconds left. They're at the Nederland 15-yard line, and their quarterback's trying to get him up to spike. It's like he gets him up to spike, and I think he just kind of lost his mind for a minute, and they snapped the ball, and he took a knee.
Oh no!
Yeah,
no, not a knee.
Yeah, he took a knee, and the clock ran out. Poor kid. So Nederland did get a win, so it was a crazy way to get for Nederland.
He's got to be the sickest man in America.
Yeah, poor kid. I felt, I think his mind was going 1,000,000 miles per hour, and he just brain farted there.
I can see that happening.
Yeah.
All right, let's do some quick hitters in 4A and 3A. Crawford got the doors blown off last year when they played Belleville, but this is not the same team from 365 days ago. First of all, DJ Sanders ain't running around for Belleville. Or his half brother in the backfield there.
Oh yeah.
But they do have to travel up to Belleville. What do you think about this one? Can Mosley and the boys come up there and do something?
Hey, I love Fort Bend Crawford. I think this is going to tell me how good Fort Bend Crawford can be. I love Alvin Mosley. I think he is as fun a player to watch in the state of Texas. Give me Fort Bend Crawford in a little bit of an upset. This is going to tell me how good Crawford can be, because Belleville is the kind of team that you'll have to beat if you want to make a playoff run in Region 3 and 481.
Clip it? Should I clip it? Don't do it to me again.
I'm not going to tell you. You're the producer. You can clip it.
The back of his mind, he's like, don't do this to me again.
I have the Belleville people all in my DMs.
All right. How about Columbus against Needville? I haven't figured out Needville that much.
Yeah, Needville's been kind of a hard team to figure. They beat West Columbia in the opener. And that's a nice win for them. I think West Columbia is a good team. And then, losing to Livingston. Now, Livingston is much, much improved under a new head coach. You know who Livingston's head coach is?
No, who's it?
It's Tucker Carter.
Okay.
Former Allen Eagle quarterback.
The redhead?
He was the backup quarterback. He let Allen. I don't know if you were in Texas.
I was. He went down to NRG and
he replaced Carter. Yeah, he replaced the starting quarterback and let Allen to a state title.
I didn't realize he was even in the coaching game. How about that?
He was an assistant coach at White House, Patrick Mahomes' alma mater. Now he's the head coach at Livingston. They beat Needville last week. So nice win. So Columbus, young. I think they're still trying to figure some things out offensively, especially. But they did bounce back after that loss to Cuero with a nice win over LaGrange. Give me the Columbus Cardinals.
Gotcha. All right, how about West Columbia and Bay City? Now, this could be first of all, West Columbia is a quality squad, a good team. They just had a tough loss the other time. But is this a Bay City look-ahead game? Because that game next week against Sealy, man, I'm looking forward to that one at Sealy.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one. West Columbia, Dasi Abdallah is a dude. But Bay City, they pummeled Edna last week. And Ole Edna took it on the chin against Bay City last week.
Made her in the back making some SpaghettiOs.
42-14. And I talked to Edna's head coach, and he was very complimentary of Bay City and their defense especially. He said their defense was just lethal all night. They couldn't do anything. I like Bay City. I think the Black Cats have a little bit too much speed. especially on the defensive side of the ball, and they'll contain that West Columbia running game offense.
All right, let's finish it up with Lamarck and Hitchcock. Obviously, we talked about how Hitchcock, that whole graduating class, moved on, but they still got some talent there. So talk to me about this one against a quality Lamarck squad.
Yeah, Lamarck has improved. That's a nice. Last week, notwithstanding, because you don't really learn a lot about Lamarck when they blew out Wheatley 57-0. Yeah. It could have been 80-0 if they wanted. But week 1, they beat Huffman. That's a nice win for Lamarck.
Right,
going to beat a good Huffman team at home, but a really good win here. Hitchcock, I think, not being talked about a lot because they graduated heavy. They nearly went to Hampshire Finette and beat a really good team on the road last week. So Hitchcock, I think, is figuring some things out. That they've got their defense in order. This is a chippy rivalry game. Two communities that are very close to each other. A lot of kids know each other. A lot of crossover between these two communities. It'll be fun, a fun atmosphere. I think Lamarck keeps it close. I think Coach Oliphant's doing a heck of a job there for the Cougars, but I like Hitchcock to win, let's go by 10.
10? Give it to them by 10. All right, that's it for this week. We've already found out where you're headed. It's going to be a fun week for you. I'm sure you'll be watching some games flying around on Saturday if you can somehow get some sort of Wi-Fi on your JetBlue flight.
I'll just
Spirit Airlines.
No, we're going. Well, if Spirit or JetBlue wants to sponsor the podcast, please do. I'll be flying a different airline, but I'll use the Inside High School Sports credit card.
There you go. Buy yourself some Wi-Fi. There you go.
Yeah.
See some Texas Live. All right. Well, next week is a bye week for a lot of districts, but we still will have some games to talk about.
Not for us. Not
for us. We don't have to take a bye, man.
Nope.
I'm supposed to take a bye, but I'm going to play through it.
There you go. You're a gamer.
All right, Stepp. I'll talk to you next week, brother.